Can Cam Dolan wear any tighter pants?
And he can pull it off. He can rock it.
Next on MLR Weekly, Seattle Seawolves owner Adrian Balfour, NOLA Gold's GM Ryan Fitzgerald, and Rugby Morning's Coffee Break with John Fitzpatrick. Rugby Wrap-Up brought to you in part by Sheehy Auto Stores. It's easy at Sheehy. The Pig and Whistle, the world's best rugby pub. And Lean and Limber, stretching your way to a healthier lifestyle. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to this week's MLR Weekly as presented by Rugby Wrap-Up. Matt McCarthy in New York City, and we have a huge show for you this week. We have General Manager of the NOLA Gold, Ryan Fitzgerald. We have Seattle Seawolves owner Adrian Balfour. And before we get to them, we have our recurring segment, Rugby Morning's Coffee Break with MLR Headlines, and John Fitzpatrick. John, welcome. Take us away.
Matt, the New York Iron Workers officially signed former LA Giltini scrum half Christian Rodriguez. New York obtained the rights to Rodriguez in the 2023 MLR dispersal draft.
There's a lot in there. First off, New York and New England now are really deep at scrum half. And secondly, you said iron workers. Is it iron or iron workers?
Don't make me go nuclear on you.
Next!
New York also signed wing Brooklyn Hardacker, who hails from Australia, originally signed with the LA Giltinis in the 2022 MLR season, but did not see any action in the regular season. So there's some more speed on the wing for New York. But Matt, I gotta ask you a question. Isn't there already a Brooklyn in New York?
There is indeed, and you need to fire your joke writer. Next!
How about the Utah Warriors? They've announced that former USA Eagle hooker, Chad Goff, who announced his retirement back in June, returns to Utah on a short-term contract. What do you think about that, Matt?
I think it's great. He did retire, and he's coming out of retirement, perhaps to try to duplicate his most exciting try, arguably most exciting try in MLR history, a 90-something meter scamper by a hooker. Always exciting. Good to have him back. Next!
Last but not least, Matt, there are 3 MLR preseason games this weekend. Starting on Friday, Old Glory DC hosts New York. On Saturday, the Dallas Jackals host NOLA Gold. And on Sunday, the American Raptors of Super Rugby Americas travels up to Seattle to play the Seawolves. So, Matt, we are so close to the start of the regular season.
And we'll have Mr. Adrian Balfour, the owner of the Seattle Seawolves, on later in the program. So I will ask him about the cross-promotion, cross-contamination, if you will, of the two brands between MLR and SRA. And also, MLR Weekly is rumored to be on the road in that D.C.-New York scrimmage down in the nation's capital. So look for that next week. Next!
Matt, that's all I got.
All right. Another stellar job from Mr. John Fitzpatrick of Rugby Morning and Rugby Morning's Coffee Break. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go away. We'll be right back with the general manager of the NOLA Gold, Mr. Ryan Fitzgerald.
Selling or trading in your vehicle? Sheehy makes it easy. With Easy Trade, start online or visit us in store. We want your vehicle, and we'll give you up to 125% of KBB value.
It's easy at Sheehy. Sheehy.com.
And we are back with the general manager of the New Orleans Gold, the NOLA Gold, Mr. Ryan Fitzgerald. Ryan, welcome back to the show.
Matt, thanks for having me. Always a blast. Love this one.
Well, you might not love it this time because we're going to take you down, sir. We are going to fire away. You're in whatever we call the hot seat. This is the Sponsor Opportunity Hot Seat, brought to you by Sponsor Opportunity. All right, let's go, Ryan. Okay, first question up. There were some big changes in the offseason for the Gold. Tell us about it.
Yeah, there really was. It was just, we've had a really good core of guys for a long time, and obviously some of them still here, of course, but there's always going to kind of be, every season there's always going to be changeover, and this year there was. I mean, obviously, fortunately coming off our toughest year yet, but more so also, not all of them had directly to do with that. A lot of it has to do, guys in their life situation, whether it be a family situation, another job opportunity that they moved back home for, some guys, overseas guys retiring. Again, guys having some family situations back home, a couple guys, one guy trying out for the XFL. So it was kind of a mix of everything, and then obviously, we wanted to, Kane Thompson, giving him the, his first full season, as far as like obviously last year in his off, but I mean first full calendar year with the whole off season. Taylor Howden as well. Kane was able to go home for the first time in 2 years. Got renewed his visa, saw his family, and also was able to do a lot of good recruiting over there. He's got roots over there, obviously, with MPC and with Super Rugby. And I think we really sat down at the end of the year and wanted to discuss and find out like what our give back to our identity. I always think that's the key. No matter what sport you're playing, is that, you have your identity of our team that you want. And we got a little bit of away from that last year, even though how we played on the field as far as playing in the right areas, getting back to that relentless, like, ruthless, in your face, tough, physical, play smart, play in the right areas, execute. And I think we got a lot of good, I think we picked this offseason was outstanding as far as
got some of the oomph back, you say.
Yeah, we did. As far as playmakers, tough, top to bottom, tough, not just physically, but mentally tough. I think we did, really happy about our draft, college draft, picked up some free agents, made a move for Dougie Fife. Great experience, obviously, with Scotland, both 15s and 7s, so I think Taylor Howden and Todd Fitzgerald were here all fall, myself as well, everything. That the fall academy was a huge success, going 4-2 in that, and 3 guys going from the academy ranks, earning up to a pro contract.
All right, so I want to segue now, because we're talking about you're assembling your team. You're operating with a team that may or may not have the billions of dollars or tons of money at the disposal. How is that a challenge for you in building this team?
Obviously, this offseason, it's been a tremendous year as far as, Tim Falcon since day one has just absolutely, busted his butt on everything. He's just best owner you can work for, as far as a guy that'll give you everything he's got 100%, and obviously getting some more investors on board, more partners on board as the league continues to rise and as our team continues to go and the league grows. So this has been a good year for that as well in the off season. But in the early stages, there's some challenges with that as well. It's not, the salary cap is one thing. Everybody's supposed to be under the same, playing by the same rules.
Well, nobody would ever go over the salary cap, Ryan. Come on.
Yeah. Other than,
what saying?
What happened last year.
Rising boat, all that. Tides, something.
But sometimes what people don't think about too is it's not just the cap. It's like if you're getting a foreign player in here, for example, international player coming up from overseas, the visa alone, that's $6,000. The flight over here, if he's got a wife and a kid, and getting him a place to live, because obviously if he's a veteran player and he's got a wife and kids coming with him, he's probably not going to crash with the 22-year-old rookie. So a vehicle to get around. There's car insurance. There's all those things that go into it that are not under the direct salary cap necessarily, but it's just.
Were you going to say under the table? Were you going to?
No. To do under the table, you gotta have.
I'd have to edit that out, man.
No. But there's a lot that goes into that you don't think of, as far as it's not just the salary cap of like, well, everybody's playing by the same, but there's a lot that, can you make that happen to get the person here?
Well, interesting that you say that. So let me ask you this, because you're not the general manager of an NFL, an MLB, or an NBA or an NHL team. You're the general manager of a new league in this country, 6th season, still new, right?
Yeah.
When you're making your picks, I mean, you have financial considerations, but are you also looking at maybe somebody to bring some eyeballs or some fannies in the seats? And I'm allowed to say fanny on this side of the pond, folks. So save your letters.
Yeah, that's some challenges as well. Like, like you said, going into year 6 of a new sport. Year 1 was only an 8-game season. 2020 was only 5 games with COVID. So we're still, trying to get the momentum, 100% going. But again, that being said, Matt, same thing. Well, biggest difference in the NFL, right, or something like from here. Right now as we're starting up, we're doing everything here. We here in NOLA Gold, we kind of are all about like, hey, wear 9 hats, wear 8 hats, do whatever you got to do to get the job done, right? So, there's probably not, higher ups and other teams or head coaches or GMs that are, also picking up players at the airport, moving mattresses to get them settled in, and even coming down to recruiting. Right. Like if you're drafting a guy in the NFL, if he's got a wife and kid, that's kind of probably, that doesn't affect if you pick him or not. He's going to make enough money regardless that he can bring his wife and kid down.
Right.
You know, for us, that could drastically affect if a guy is single or if a guy has got a wife and kid. Not that you're holding that against him, but he obviously has to put food on the table for his wife and his kid versus a 22, 23-year-old rookie that can, you know, pack his bag and be down there tomorrow.
For the kid, that kind of stuff. Maybe his
Exactly.
wife's got a job and she's got to relocate her job.
Right. And if they're overseas, you know, she can't work here because she's coming, you know, she doesn't have the same visa, you know, so all those things go into effect versus, you know, and then on the top of that as well, Matt, you know, when I was scouting in the NFL, you can watch a guy in your region, you might watch him for 2, 3, even 4 years. You know, by the time you actually pick him, you know, in the NFL draft, you got the whole profile of this guy. You know, what he did as a freshman, what high school he went to, everything. You've met him 3-5 times. The Senior Bowl is currently going on right now, which I used to be a part of, and those guys are getting, you know, sitting down, having lunch, having dinner with the guys. There's times where for an international player, you might talk to him and his agent for 2-3 months lead up, do the whole visa process, the whole time he flies here. And the first time that you meet him, he's already signed, you've already invested money into the visa, the flights, everything. And you meet him at the airport for the first time after talking to him for 4 months. At that point in time, you could be like,
he says to you,
man.
I want a new car.
Right, right. And you're like, oh, man, we made a mistake here. Now what? It's like, he's already here. He's already got a visa. It's like, you know, what's that?
I'm only getting paid.
Yeah, toothpaste is out of the tube on that one. It's tough. And, you know, and it's hard to
French fans.
Right.
If you have Miami coming in next year, and I'm looking for you to verify that, by the way, that was a feeder question. I mean,
I'm sure, you know, you've heard what I've heard, Matt. You know,
all right. I'm sure you've heard a little bit more. But so if Miami comes in, do you think you guys would be the obvious choice to go to the West? And the second part of that is, how many teams would it take to form a Central Division?
Yeah, I thought about that. If Miami, for instance, you know, they did come in, I would guess, you know, geographically that would probably be us going to the West. I would think, you know, I mean, I know there was even possible considerations of it for this year when Chicago came in, so that would make the most sense. I think, you know, we're at 13 now. If we got to 15, you probably could think about doing the three divisions. You know, you'd have the teams out, you have 5 out in the West, you'd have 5 kind of right down that pipeline in the Central. And then you got obviously the East, you know, so you could have, you know, play everybody in your division twice. That's home and away, you know, so that's 8 games, being, you know, the other 4 opponents in your division. And then you got, you know, maybe play 2 or 3 in the West, 2 or 3 in the East, and there's your 16-game season. Or maybe they add a couple games out of the, you know, maybe they go up to 18 games. Who knows?
Ooh, are you a proponent of going to a longer schedule?
I am. I mean, if we keep on expanding, I think so, because I like, you know, what I want to get to, Matt, as well as obviously the whole league does, not just me. I mean, every coach, every GM, everybody will get to, obviously, as we continue to grow and the league grows, and hopefully more people are coming into the games and the sponsors come in and the salary cap can go up. I would love, you know, it'd be easier too, I think, to operate obviously as a whole if we can get everybody getting kind of paid almost to the point we can get paid year round. Or not necessarily year round. Even the NFL, they don't get year round. They get their season and they get their, you know, off-season roster bonuses. If you can get to that point, I think our investment also turns in better, because then if you invest in a guy that is coming over from overseas and he comes here with his wife and his kid and they love the culture and they love the area and they stay here year round and they start building roots here. And you got guys like JP Duplessis, who's got, you know, 3 kids. 2 of them are born in America. They were born in San Diego when he was there.
Did you put them on contract yet?
They're already Eagle eligible. They're on the board. Yeah. They're on the board. Yeah.
All right, we got to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
If you're in New York City and want to watch some great rugby, have some great food, and some great times, go to the world's best rugby pub, the Pig and Whistle on West 36th Street.
Don't miss the critically acclaimed The Rugby Odds, the world's best sports entertainment show ever. We do have that lone URC match. I just, you know, it's like herding 3-year-olds that are drunk.
By the way, I spent a month in Roppongi one night in Tokyo.
1, you're going to get taxed. 2, at some point you'll die. And 3, the French will never close a game strongly.
Kuboto Spears Funabashi Tokyo Bay. They are not to be confused, however, with the Mitsubishi Heavy Industries Saga Mihara Dinoboars. I just wanted to say both those teams' names.
6 nations, all alike in dignity, in fair Europa, where we lay our scene.
The show of weakness that the Panasonic Wild Knights had. Green Rockets have seen blood in the water, and they will attack.
The most punchable face in the history of the world, right there.
And we're back. And we're back with Mr. Ryan Fitzgerald, the general manager of the NOLA Gold. Mr. General Manager, what are the strengths of your team this year?
Right off the bat, the culture, last year was a little bit, different, much more positive, just start this year. I think right off the bat in training camp, the juice is there, the energy is there, the guys around each other. You guys are doing things a lot of times organically. I mean, even also, just kind of hanging out constantly. So, but the guys are just, you could just feel the energy and the juice. I said, I think you got a perfect mix right now of, our core guys that have been here and some American players that have really developed over the years. Guys that have been here from day one with the Eric Howards and the Testimony Tungawea and, Kevin Sullivan, Matt Harmon going in year 5 now. Those guys, Eagles and guys that are in the Eagle pool. And you come and mixed in with a lot of veteran guys coming from big moments, Super Rugby. You mix that whole area in. I think we're a real dynamic, tough, physical team that's going to be getting off the line fast and physical. And I think that you also got just, the vision.
I want to ask you, what do you think what's going on with USA Rugby? And now that we have like a governor appointed by World Rugby to oversee us in Dom Hayes, what's your take on all that?
Obviously, disappointing the guys, players obviously are, put everything on the line, players and coaching staff, everybody to come up, just that short. It's gut wrenching, obviously, for the next coming 2023 World Cup. But I think it's going, it's going to be a positive. You can use it, obviously it stings, no doubt about it. Now let's flip it and let's go forward. Scott Lawrence, I got unbelievable respect for, knowing him for many years. To wear that jersey's got to mean something to you. It's got to mean something to you. It's got to mean everything. And, if you want to crack at it, you're going to have to sell out for it. I don't think anybody's going to get anybody across the line is going to get any free caps. You're going to have to earn every piece of it. And I think you also, like I said, having an identity, like we've always talked, like I just started with the show with saying, I think that's huge. Obviously, with guys scattered all across between overseas and an MLR, and they assemble, and sometimes at tight windows, how fast they can assemble and get up to speed as quick as possible. I think, as far as maybe only having 10 training sessions before boom, they have a test match. That's tough. So I think the more of the identity that you have mastered, of what as you come into camp and what you want to do, what's expected from you and everything. I think that communication is going to go a long way.
All right, last question, and this is a quickie. As a GM of a professional team, and you've got your players under contract, how do you feel about releasing them to the nation?
Releasing them to play for USA?
Yeah,
I'm 100% proud as hell of them. That's an unbelievable accomplishment. I have no problem with whatsoever. I would have removed my left pinky toe off my foot to get at one cap.
I would have removed your left pinky toe to get my cap too.
I would have done anything to get one cap. So I would have got that eagle number tattooed on me the next day. So I absolutely, that's, and again, like I said, I got, the utmost respect for guys that are trying to go play for the next level and play for their country. That's the goal. And I think Kane Thompson's got that same goal till here. He wants everybody to raise that bar and raise that standard and, shoot and aim high. Your goal coming in should be like, well, I should get hope to get a couple starts, hope the roster, come off the bench. No, I want to be an Eagle, and then, shoot for that, and keep on driving that standard and shooting for that. And I think the guys, a lot of guys here want it.
And I think Kane was in 3 Rugby World Cups for Samoa, right?
He was. Yep. And in 2012, he was starting at 8-man when Super Rugby with the Chiefs when they beat the Sharks.
Pretty good resume.
Heck of a resume. And you have to pry it out of him to even get that out of him. You might know him for 3 years before he even tell you that. Yeah.
All right. On that note, I want to thank Mr. Ryan Fitzgerald, General Manager of the NOLA Gold. We'll be right back.
I've been blind since I was 4. And I've never seen a beer commercial or a beer label. None of that stuff influences me. I drink beer because of the taste. And my beer is Pabst Blue Ribbon. It has the taste and the flavor.
What do you think's on the label?
I think there's a naked woman riding on a unicorn, jumping over fire. Oh, that's good beer.
We are back with none other than one of our favorite all-time guests, the owner of the Seattle Seawolves, Mr. Adrian Balfour. Adrian, welcome back.
Thanks for having me, buddy.
Let's get right down to maybe a sore spot. I've asked you, we talked about it last year a little bit before we've had you on, but you were an iffy call against Brad Tucker from hoisting your third MLR shield. What have you done in the offseason to give you those chances of hoisting that shield for the third time?
We've put one of the things we've done is we want to kind of beef up our relationship with referees, and also.
You mean coin in the pocket?
No. Well, it's like, okay, what are the referees actually focusing on this game? Okay, what are their priorities, and what is inside the red line and what's outside the red line? You know, that sort of thing. So what we've done is we've built a relationship with Kat Roach, and she's actually moved to Seattle as of February 1st, and she's going to be embedded with the team. So she'll be able to share the priorities that the referees are looking at with the team. Also, during course of practice, we'll be able to practice with a referee, refereeing our practice sessions, which will increase the team's awareness. So that'll build that muscle memory around the rules. So we should get less penalties, I would hope. Kat's a very, very talented up-and-coming referee. And, I think she's got potential to be a World Cup referee. So she's able to then work with other local refs and help develop them as well. And she'll be a full-time referee, not a part-time referee. So that in turn helps the US development of referees, which is a key component for the game going forward. And the other thing is, where are the areas that we didn't have depth last year, and make sure that we have genuine competition for every single position on the field. So that's the other sort of recruitment target that we've been looking at. And as I said, there's about a 10 or 15% natural attrition that happens at the end of every game.
All right, shifting gears a little bit on a broader topic. I had Kimball Kerr, the CEO of the Utah Warriors, on last week, and earlier in this program, I had Ryan Fitzgerald, the GM of the NOLA Gold, on, and I got their perspectives, but I wanted to get an owner's perspective on the relationship with Super Rugby Americas.
In Super Rugby Americas, selfish interest to get involved in North America because that's where the money is. Okay. Or that's where people think the money is. Let's put it that way. So I can understand them wanting to do it. The critical thing for rugby in North America is that we have a joined up plan, like that we integrate and we develop the professional game in North America. And so you can't have competing visions, one pulling one way and another one pulling another way. That just divides us and leaves us more vulnerable to failure, to be honest. So never has there been a more critical time than now for USA Rugby, World Rugby, and MLR to work together. And I believe a subset of the owners group met with USA Rugby and the World Rugby guys in New York earlier this month. Okay. And we've ironed out a plan that makes MLR Rugby in the short term, next couple of years, to be the competition that will be sanctioned by USA and World Rugby going forward.
Interesting. So are we saying that Super Rugby Americas won't be sanctioned as well?
Well, Super Rugby Americas are going to play with Glendale, okay, being as part of that competition. And that is what it is, and good luck to them. But in terms of a competition that's sanctioned in North America, that is MLR.
Staying with the Raptors, do you see them as the one team hosting all Eagles playing professionally on just one team in Super Rugby Americas, or are they going to still be sprinkled throughout the MLR?
No, that's not going to happen. I think they're going to be sprinkled throughout the MLR. One of the things that we're trying to figure out is how do we get more game time for the under 23 players within our squads who are perhaps second or third choice from the starting team. So they train as part of our programs. We develop them intentionally to get them stronger and better, but they're not getting enough game time. So one of the things that we have to figure out is how do we get those players games in perhaps a secondary competition. We're pulling together that plan for under 23 player development. So that is now in the planning stage, and hopefully that'll be able to be released, within the next month or so. With the 2031 World Cup, those are, if you want to look at a three-legged stool, single competition in North America, take the second leg is develop the refereeing talent that can support the expansion of the game. And the third leg of the stool is make sure the under 23 players are getting US under 23 players are getting game time and professional game time.
Sorry, you mentioned the expansion of the game. Can you give us some information on expansion 2024, 2025?
Yeah, there's a number of teams that are actively in conversations with the office. I believe it's no secret that Miami are looking to come in and will probably come in for 2024. There are, I think, about 6 or 7 other groups that are in active conversations at differing levels of participation about coming on board. So we do have a strong league, and we have a more professional league, in my humble opinion, than I think we've ever seen before. We're going to be spending, as we move towards the 2031 World Cup, total expenditure will probably end up being around $1 billion.
Yeah.
Okay. So we are deadly serious about building and developing the game here locally. And it's never been more important for that to be a joined up plan with World Rugby and USA Rugby, including how do we support the under 23 player development programs.
Is there any regret whatsoever on what happened with LA and Austin in terms of maybe if things had been acted upon earlier, we might have been able to salvage those franchises and keep Gilchrist in the league?
Part of it is those teams were running and operating, but their finances were maybe not necessarily commensurate with their bills. Part of it was that they were breaking the rules, and that's not a good thing. You can't really have a league if you're breaking the rules. So
right.
It's kind of a unique situation, right? And so the idea is like, let's make sure that the leadership in the league is paying attention to the details, and let's make sure that we have the ability, if a team is going to be transitioned, to support that transition. Mm-hmm.
What's the most exciting thing that fans of the Seattle Seawolves can look for in 2023?
Winning games. Let's put it that way. I think the exciting thing is that the organization has grown over the last 5 years, and so we've got 5 years of learning. So the actual operation at the team level with Brian, and at the rugby level with Clarkey, that operation is now really, really sort of kicking into its stride. And I think people would say it's one of the most professional setups in North America. And players are housed in a community that is, better than before. And we have a training regime where we're really playing like a full professional club. So we're really training like a professional club. And as I said, having Cat Roach in there brings us into par and in line with some of the other major clubs across the world. One thing I would say is that, the league has invested in trying to bring boys and girls to rugby. And if you think about it, just in 2022, we introduced 50,000 boys and girls to the sport of rugby across the United States. And since we started, we've introduced 200,000 boys and girls to the sport of rugby across the US. So, we are working really hard to build this thing called rugby, get a joined up plan with USA Rugby, perhaps integrating board seats. That might be a good way to move forward. I think that has a high likelihood of happening.
Please.
And that allows us to get this joined up plan and then focusing on those 3 areas, that we mentioned before.
Exciting times. Major League Rugby Season 6 coming up. Thank you, Mr. Balfour.
You're welcome. Thanks, Matt.
On that note, we're out of time. Thanks to Adrian Balfour of the Seattle Seawolves, Mr. Ryan Fitzgerald of the NOLA Gold, and Mr. John Fitzpatrick of Rugby Morning. And thank you for tuning in. Please look for our other programs, including the Rugby Odds, the College Rugby Wrap-Up. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Please sign up for our weekly newsletter. And please, please, please join our American Red Cross blood donor team.